All right, and we're live. Episode 29 had quite an extended break. I was traveling for work, so we missed a few episodes. The folks that I was scheduled for that time were super gracious and are going to reschedule for me later on, which is really awesome. And then I made the Facebook post and the little YouTube announcement for when this episode will be scheduled. And I mentioned that Casey Cannon was the person who showed me Richard's collection and said, "You have got to talk to this guy." He was super excited about the Fire Skinks. And I was totally unaware. So, of course, did the social media stalking like everybody does and was able to get in touch with Richard and talk to him. So today we're going to talk all about Fire Skinks, and there's already eyeballs popping up in the chat. I told Richard there'd probably be some folks coming to pick his brain, so I think it's going to be super cool, and we will get Richard on here right now. All right, Richard, what's up?
Hey, not much. Just, hanging out with the lizards.
That's right. So, like I said, some of the folks in the Herpetoculture Network group clued me into your work with Fire Skinks, and then of course went on the socials, saw all your stuff. It's awesome. Like I put in the little Facebook blurb post that I was really excited to see somebody working with a species like Fire Skinks, because when I was coming up in herpetoculture, I feel like they were really common, and then they started to fade into obscurity, and then you see them here and there, and it just I don't know. Skinks have always been something where, to me, like really easy to care for, very simple. And then Fire Skinks were the beautiful ones. So I never really understood how they kind of faded out. And then, before we got started, you and I were talking, and you were talking about how you've had a lot of success taming them down. They've been pretty chill, some outliers here and there with personality. But I was really excited to hear that and a little bit surprised that you were so lucky and so successful with the taming part. So yeah, man, just kind of take folks through. Tell us what you're doing with Fire Skinks. What are you working with? What do you got?
Well, let me just start off saying that most of them are still wild caught. So out of the 21 adults I have, 17 are wild, and 4 were captive bred, and 2 are captive born. Sorry,
Okay.
2 were captive bred and 2 were captive born. And it took a while. Oh gosh, maybe 4 or 5 months to get into a rhythm with them. I haven't been in the hobby that long. I got
See, I
my first. I
I
got my
saw
first
that
two.
on some of your
Go ahead.
posts.
Yeah.
I saw on some of your posts that you were somewhat new to reptiles. I think that's awesome. That you know this seemed to be your kind of first really big foray into stuff, and you're killing it. I thought that was super cool. But go ahead.
Yeah, I had a pair of Fire Skinks as a kid back in maybe like 2001, 2002. Got them from a certain pet store, and they didn't live very long. So ever since that, I've always wanted Fire Skinks. I've always loved them since I was a little kid. And I really owe this all to my brother because one day he comes to me and is like, "Hey, I know you like Fire Skinks, and here's some websites that have them for sale online." I was like, "Okay, let me go check them out." And that started everything, really.
Nice. That's cool. So when you were first getting them, now was it Fire Skinks are cool and I want to keep some, or did you go right into I want to do a big group and really pile up those numbers, or how did you build up to having such a good adult group?
I I got 2 normals first. I just wanted a pair of normals. I got them. I fell in love, right? And then I saw a post from Outback. They had a pair of cobalts for sale,
Right.
and I thought, wow, these are so cool. These are amazing. But it was just out of my price range. So when I finally decided to, let's say screw it, I'm gonna go get them. They had
Mhm.
sold out.
Of course.
So I hit him up one night, and then I was like, "Hey, if you guys have any cool morphs or anything like that, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to buy them." And they happened to have two Axanthics and one Anery Fire Skink,
Okay.
and they're like, "Oh gosh!" And the girl, the Anery or Aneri, however you say it, they wanted like $800 for her. I was like, I'll hold off on that one, but I ended up getting the two Axanthics. And then I'm posting them right online saying, "Hey, look at my cool new fire seats." And everybody's like, "Oh man, I want one. Let me know if you breed them. I'll definitely buy one. I'll buy one. Hey, when are you going to breed them? I want one." And then after those two, I started to really amp up my group.
Okay. See, that's what I've never understood. Like, it seems to be that way. Somebody has them and they post. They're like, "Oh, hey, they're super cool. They're my pets. I enjoy them." And then there's tons of response. Like, "Oh yeah, I love those. I had those when I was a kid." That kind of seems to be what we all say. Like, "I love those when I was a kid," and you just don't until kind of you came along. I didn't really see, you know, people in current herpeticulture social media type world just consistently posting it. And then I mean, that that's your whole framework, is just post after post after post, is all these super cool skinks and the morphs, and it seems you're having a lot of success. And when the folks at the network were talking to me and they're like, "Oh, you got to check this out," I was like, "Oh, that's cool," and I kind of assumed that it would be, one or two, and you were having some success. And I mean, I think that's cool because am nostalgic about the species, and everybody kind of says that. I had them when I was a kid, and then I see it's this huge group and like tons of success, and I don't know, man. That's really cool that you. Oh, I like fire skinks, so I'll get a couple, and then it's morphs and killing it. Like, that was pretty quick.
Uh, yeah. So last year was my first breeding season. I got 12 clutches and 66 eggs.
Wow.
And out of those 12, only one clutch was normal to normal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Out of I think this is really beginner's luck. So out of those 66 eggs, I had one infertile.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Man,
lost. Yeah, I
dude,
lost.
that is
Yeah, one infertile.
cool.
I think my first clutch was the head Xanthics. So that was the
Okay.
world's first for them. A proven head Xanthic.
That's
And
awesome.
so I'm asking, around because these babies don't look normal. Because
Right.
they were dark. They were very dark. And I'm asking around, hey, what do you think? Like, what do you think the genetics are? Is it complete? Is it co? I like, is it recessive? Because I don't think recessive really shows on anything. And then,
Yeah, that's kind of it's super cool, but then it's also kind of the downside, right? Of you're kind of the first one in the door. So it's one of those like, well, I think this is what this is, but nobody's ever seen it before. That's the whole point. Like,
I'm
it
like,
adds a layer
that's
of
exactly what it
difficulty.
was. I was like, and then I had my first clutch was in April that hatched out.
Okay.
April 16th was my first one. My second one was in April 26th. High red to a reduced pattern. So nothing fancy, but something nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm comparing the babies. I'm showing them to people. I'm like, hey, what do you make of it? Because they were so much darker than the normals.
Right.
And then they're like, well, maybe have a couple more clutches, see what happens, see what those turned out. Third clutch. was another het exanthic, and it was like the same thing. They were extremely dark, a lot of white dots on their patterns and stuff, kind of like
Hmm.
what the mom had. Like, hey, so what do you think? It's like 11 for 11 are this dark. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, is people don't. I guess there's more of an awareness in herpetoculture now because ball pythons and corn snakes and things with morphs and stuff like that are pretty popular. But like a lot of folks that are breeding for, if you're especially if you're doing the hets and different things and trying to prove things out, like there there's a lot of test breeding that does go into that, and working out who lineage and how the babies are going to come out and things like that. Like it's definitely there's more than one step in the process. Just you got them, they're established, obviously doing well because they pumped out tons of eggs. You got to get the eggs to hatch, and then you got to get through, you know, establishing everybody and dealing with it. I mean, that's, yeah.
I think I had 6 pairings within a month and a half of each other.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was funny because my first visual pairing I saw happened when the skinks were in quarantine. I'm like, oh, isn't this fitting? Quarantine babies in quarantine.
For sure. Nice. So now, was everybody set up the same way? And I mean, is everything pretty consistent as far as enclosures and heat and things like that to where it kind of makes sense that everybody jive together at the same time?
What I think it was, I'm in California, so nice weather all year long.
Sure.
We had a cold snap for like a week and a half. Things
Oh,
got down to like 35 outside, and I guess that triggered everybody because all my
for
males
sure.
started going crazy.
For sure. That's cool. So did you, after, you witnessed a few in quarantine, obviously you had bunches pair up after the cold snap. Did you do anything special for the females? Did you supplement or gut load, or how did you treat them afterward?
I usually give them supplements once a week, like because I use food cup deli cups as their food bowls,
Oh, okay.
so they would get like 15 to 20 bugs in there for the group. So it's all dusted and it lasts for a while.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would just give them an extra dusting throughout the week.
Oh, okay.
Then the roaches were always gut loaded on apples, carrots, and other veggies.
Okay. So now are you keeping just 1.1, or are you keeping in pairs, or are you keeping in groupings, or how are you keeping your adults?
I'm gonna separate because I'm waiting on a big order for custom enclosures.
Oh, okay, cool.
So right now it's a lot of 1-on-1s. A couple males are 1 and 2,
Okay.
and I have a handful of enclosures just males.
Oh, okay, cool.
And these guys are really hard to sex. So at one point I had like 4 males together, but I didn't know they were all males,
Right.
and they all get along pretty well. This is the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising, man. Most lizard species, that's not going to fly. That's pretty cool.
Like with the hypo I showed you,
Hmm.
it's a 2.1 in there.
Oh, okay.
And the other male gets along with him just fine, but he doesn't like he doesn't like some males.
Okay. So
But
now
the funny, go ahead, go ahead.
have you seen any kind of interactions there with the 2.1 where, any sort of display, or maybe, you know, kind of coveting of the female, like we're going to buddy up to the female and you're push you away, or is everybody just kind of hanging out chilling?
It's funny, I find the males together more, in the same hide than I do with the male and a female.
Oh wow, man, that's cool. That's kind
Yeah.
of awesome.
So there might be a pecking order with them. It's either that or they're just both non-dominant males, so they do get along.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
But
So
I've
now,
had
how?
more.
No, go
So
ahead.
I've had more issues with the girls fighting than the boys.
Oh, okay. So like when you're doing the 1.2, they scuffle.
Uh, no, I kept them with a 0.3,
Oh, okay.
and a couple of girls just do not like each other at all, and they will fight and nip.
Wow. So
Yeah, so
completely backward from what everybody would think. Males
yeah,
don't care, and, and females are snappy. That's awesome.
most of the males don't care. There's a couple I don't keep with other males because they are definitely dominant males.
Okay.
But no, I have two females in particular that I put them in together, just to see how things were to give the female a break from breeding, and they fought within 10 minutes.
Wow. Now, are you keeping babies in groups, or and have you observed anything there with the really young ones?
Babies are extremely social with each other.
Awesome. Very good. That's got to help having so many.
Yeah, I've kept them in groups of 9 for short term, and nothing, not a single instance of fighting.
Very cool. Very cool. Have you, so with the babies, I mean, delicate, they come out just fat little skinks doing their own thing. Did you notice anything where they were more or less difficult, or how did you
If
deal with that? I mean, especially having so many all at once, like
I
I'd be
had
super
30
worried.
babies at one time. Yeah, I had 30 babies at once.
That's crazy. I mean, it's
Uh,
awesome. It's a good thing, but
they're flighty,
okay.
and then they're so small that you're so careful to how you grab them and approach them that you keep missing them. They keep getting
Right.
away. So I treated them like you would with spiders, just have a catch a cup and something underneath them so they can fall into and
Oh,
not run away.
okay. Cool. I mean, it makes
But
sense.
the first baby that I had hatch was just a big old fat head on a little body.
That's awesome. So, so you tons of eggs, bunch of clutches, tons of babies. So now, what's the next step? How are you separating out holdbacks and some are leaving, and or are you just going to keep everything, or how are you going to parse things out now that you have so many?
Uh, I have I have 15 leaving soon, as soon as it warms up.
Okay.
I have my group that I already picked out. They're all separated from the other ones. And then like one guy is a local pickup, and he snatched up all my melanistics that I had for sale.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't ever see it, so you got to get it when you can. I understand. So, is that something where do you think you will? Hmm, how do I phrase that? Do you think you will add more adults later on, or do you think you're just going to kind of work in your own group, or how do you see that going forward?
I lost like 4 females because they turned out to be males.
Oh, okay,
So I do need a couple more normal females because I only have one.
okay,
And then I still have one that's unknown. That's a normal. Because It hasn't shown signs of breeding when I've added around other females, and then most of the males have just ignored them, so I can't really tell.
Right? I need
And
a reaction from one of you.
I have one skink. His name is Vegeta. And his nickname is the Horny Man.
Right? That's useful.
He lives to his name. He'll if he sees a female anywhere, he will go for it.
Very
If he's
cool.
in public, if he's under his hide, if he's in my room, he'll go for it.
It's see, man, it's so crazy to me that I don't know. I hope that this type of success continues and they become as popular as I feel like they should be. Like it's because I see your posts and pictures and things, of course, and it looks super cool, and it was really successful. It was awesome. You saw all these cool skinks, and there's not really a ton of context, because you're looking on Facebook or you see pictures, or it's hard to kind of actually get a sense of um, like how it's really going, I guess, and then be able to talk to you and oh, it's going awesome. Like, I got, males that breed really well. And then you're finding out, female competitive behavior. Males are pretty cool. And, you had an incredible fertility rate. Just all these different things. Like you have a ton of positives, like a ton of upside. A lot of times for breeding reptiles, it's kind of playing the odds. You have losses and different things where there are some negatives, and stressors, I suppose. But the lizards that in herpeticulture that seem to be really successful on the pet side, or just in herpeticulture in general, and is being, I don't know, popular, quote unquote, um, are the kind of animals that you're describing. Like there aren't really a ton of negatives. They breed pretty readily. They're pretty chill. They're a nice handheld size, bunches of colors. Like I don't know, you just have a really good recipe going. I'm I'm glad that what it looks like on social media is as positive of an experience as you are describing now. I think that's really cool, especially for a species that I don't feel like is kept enough or gets enough attention. So I'm glad to hear that it's going as well as it is.
I usually keep quiet about it. I have a few people I talk to regularly on this, but there have been some setbacks. Like I had one baby born with a deformity. It had a deformed mouth and it never ate for me.
Okay.
So
I mean,
usually
it's
whenever I have an issue, it's
understandable.
always with the high end clutches. Like
Of course.
like the normals, nothing. Never ever a bad thing with the normals. They're as hardy as could be. You know, they're like tanks.
Yep. And then the one that you're really worried about, and I just need this one. Yep. That's of course, man. That's how it's gonna go.
Like the worst was I lost an entire clutch of melanistics.
Oh, that
I
sucks.
had eggs for so long that the incubator broke,
Oh wow.
and by the time I was able to get it fit, get a new one, get it here, and get them all set up, they all died.
Right. Yeah, I mean that I don't know. Not not saying it's not a bad thing. It is a bad thing, but I almost kind of want to like that doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like that equipment failure is not, like you didn't mess up or you know what I mean? Like that's just one of those stupid life things that happens. You know what I mean?
I guess 6 months is the extreme limit for these things.
Right?
'Cause I think in 6 months it was off for maybe 3 or 4 days.
Wow. Very cool.
Like my last
So,
clutch hatched
oh,
out in
go ahead.
December.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that one surprised me too, because that girl, she doesn't take nothing from nobody.
Very cool.
Yeah, she doesn't want to breed, she will let you know.
I mean, it kind of makes sense that you're seeing so many personality quirks, I guess. Um, especially when you're saying that you're able to keep some in groups and you're able to group babies, and then even for breeding, that sometimes it's 2.1 or 1.2, and that you have successfully been able to keep them in groups like that. It kind of makes sense that you're going to have some outliers. Like if any kind of grouping, especially for lizards like that, you're going to have however it is they communicate. You get bearded dragon head bobbing or whatever it may be. And then you're going to have those outliers of either bruiser females that just want to own the place, or males that are jerks to everybody, that kind of thing. Um, it's cool that you're seeing it in something like skinks. I don't really feel like that's as much of a thing. I guess something like a Gurnia, where you keep more like colonies, the little guys, which kind of jives with what you're doing because it's more of a handheld type thing. Where you get like blue tongues or something, it seems to be very
Mortal Kombat.
1.1. They do their own thing. It's not quite the same.
With the melanistics I showed you earlier, that's a group of 3 males together.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
all three of those are males, and there's not a single issue. The only thing they bite is me.
That's cool. So now, do you keep anything else, or is this all you're keeping?
I have 2 bearded dragons and I have 2 emerald tree skinks.
Oh, very cool. So now I've done olive tree skinks. I haven't done the emeralds. They're, in at least in my experience, they're a little bit smaller, a little bit more flighty. Um, do you find any comparison between something like a fire skink and something like a tree skink, or are they just their own beasts and you kind of keep them separate, or any crossover for care there?
Well, both like humidity, so that's something I'm used to doing now. But I think emeralds are smarter. Like when they look at you, they study you, and
I could
you
see that.
can't bribe the emeralds like you can with fire skinks.
Ah, okay.
So it's just I wasn't able to work with them when I got them because of the quarantine with them.
Sure.
And I had all these babies and I couldn't risk them.
Right.
So I'm starting to work with them more. They don't really like me yet, so it's a work in progress.
Okay. Yeah, I get that, especially, quarantine and having that many babies. I would definitely keep everybody separate. That makes sense. So I don't know really how to say that. So with doing skiing, is it what drew you to something obscure like fire skinks? Was it just nostalgia from being a kid and you fell into being really successful with that, or was it, you know, because like emeralds and olives and different tree skinks and stuff have kind of maintained their popularity. Blue tongues, of course. Um, just kind of what pushed you that direction to want to go with skinks? It's not really a all that popular grouping of lizards, I guess. It's more dedicated herpetoculture people. It's not like mainstream people buying a leopard gecko. Was it just that nostalgia from being a kid and having them then?
Well, my first pet lizard was a Schneider skink,
Oh, killer. Yes. Awesome.
and he lived for 20 years. So
Wow.
skinks. Yeah, skinks were my first lizard, and I've always fell in love with them.
Very cool.
And then I had the fire skinks as a kid, and ever since then, I haven't seen like in person in an actual store. It took like 17 years to see him again in an actual store.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. It's been a long, long time. That's cool, man, that you had a Schneider's first and it lasted that long. That's really good.
Yeah, we got them back in 2000.
Very cool, man. So is the plan going now, or do you want to, you kind of found your space and you want to you want to hang out in Fire Skinks? Are you interested in expanding at all, or kind of using
Uh,
these as a base to trade and work some stuff like some folks that breed, or what are you thinking there?
for now, I'm in the Fire Skinks, and then I have a pair of emeralds that I'm working with. But if I manage to get more room, I might do Peters because I know they need help.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that would be awesome. I like it. That would be hilarious. Like if you're like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of Fire Skinks, and turns out I'm great at it, and and then go to straight to Peters and like, and I did those too. I don't know. That'd be a pretty cool track.
I actually had baby emeralds already,
Oh yes, nice.
but mom and or dad got to it first.
Yep, I have played that game with geckos many a time. I get it.
So
It looks like skinks are your wheelhouse, man. That's awesome.
it's like I didn't even try to breed them or anything. I just had them, taking care of them, doing quarantine stuff. And then I see mom with a tail sticking out of her mouth. I'm like, oh,
Oh, that sucks. Ugh, that's the
and
worst way to find that out.
yeah. Well, with these guys, with the fire skinks, when they get close to laying, you actually see the eggs in their belly,
Oh, very cool.
but you can't candle them.
Awesome.
So usually, it's a little funny. I can get them to lay on their backs and hold them upside down, and I can look through them with the light.
Wow, that's cool. So now you said before, you thought the cold snap helped you, and that you saw tons of activity. I can speak, I promise. You saw tons of activity after that, um, and kind of with the emeralds, it it seems to be that you just are taking really good care of them, and then eggs and babies just happen to come as a result, which I think is awesome. Uh, and I think more people would be more successful with species if they just took really good care of them and let them do their own thing. Um, is it something where, are you going to try and cool them going forward to make sure there's a cold snap like you saw, or are you just going to kind of let them do their thing and then have your local weather kind of dictate how things go, or how do you think going forward you'll deal with that?
Well, with the first part about them, I've had like 4 or 5 skinks put on 100 grams since I've gotten them,
Wow.
and a minimum of every skink has at least doubled in size since I bought them.
Wow.
And well, with the weather, they're outside in like a separate room that can get really cold because it doesn't have much protection.
Okay.
So I chilled them out. I'm chilling them out right now, trying to keep them around 70 degrees,
Okay.
and hopefully that will set them off in a little bit. So they can all. I have the pairs I want together. So if they do their thing, that'd be fantastic. If not, I can wait a little bit.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I get it. So with you seeing so much um, weight gain and size difference and things, do you think that they came in younger, or do you think it's a case of things are pretty hard in the wild, and if you get good care and good food, you're gonna, kick it up a notch? And do you think that's more of a result of good food, good water, good environment, so let's grow big and strong, or is it just them kind of maturing and coming into their actual adult size.
No, the thing is, when I got the adults, they weighed less, but their bodies looked so much bigger.
Okay.
Like I had a 40-gram adult, and I looked at that picture, and I'm looking at this 40-gram baby. I'm like, its body is like 2, 3 times wider, but they're the same size.
Okay.
But I think with the wild caughts, with them coming into captivity and all of a sudden having all this food, all this water, no predators, no fear. The only thing that they see on a constant basis is me, that they just exploded in size.
Right. Very cool. So you, throughout talking so far, have mentioned weights and sizes and different things. Are you the kind of person that you keep pretty good records on stuff like that, or do you just kind of check things as you go, or how do you do record keeping? How do you address that?
Once things warm up a little bit, I weigh them every week when it's during like the spring, summer, and fall.
Okay.
Uh, During the winter, I take them out every 2 weeks so I don't bother them too much, and I weigh them all.
Okay.
And then every 2 weeks, I take pictures of them. So I have updated pictures of them as they all progress.
Oh, very cool.
I don't post much. I don't really share. I'm not really out there, but I have pictures of everything.
Nice. Now, is that something just peace of mind? You just enjoy doing that, or you just want to just part of the hobby for you is keeping the data and track of the information?
Yeah, one of my first two skinks was really, really malnourished. He wasn't eating, he wasn't doing well, and all of that. So that really prompted me to keep track of their weights and pictures of them.
Okay.
Like,
Cool.
I don't know if I could send you a personal picture of how he looked then and now, but him and the other skink I got, the other skink was like 30 grams bigger than him and really filled out. And this guy was super skinny. It, oh gosh, it took me like 5 months of
Wow.
work to get him filled in.
Wow. See, it's a cool like it, it's the realities of dealing with import animals and things, and they need some work, which is normal. I think that's a really cool reaction to for you as the keeper. Like you reckon, this lizard needs some work, and you're gonna have to put some time in and things like that. And then to from that, the realization of I need to do some work to the record keeping that you're talking about, that's pretty cool. Like that's a neat way to do it, man. To I don't know, it seemed keepers are really split. Like either you don't keep records at all and you're like, yeah, they're healthy because I look at them and they look healthy, or every 2 weeks, every week, um, I don't think there's really a middle ground for reptile keepers when it comes to record keeping. It feels like an all or nothing kind of thing.
Yep, every week I'm out there with the just with the pen and paper with my scale, just writing everything down.
Very cool.
That what
I
I'm
like it.
doing this, yeah, it takes me like 2.5 hours to go through all that.
Wow.
Yeah, the hardest part is trying to find them in the cage and get them out.
Right. Um, oh, speaking of that, um, so what are you using for enclosures?
I have 5 Zen habitats,
Oh, okay. Cool.
48, 24 by 16.
Okay.
That's what the girls are going to live in their trios. And then right now the babies are in exoterras.
Okay. Cool.
I got a couple of Zoom meds. So whatever was on sale at the time, I just bought like 6 or 7 of them and brought them home.
Yep. That's exactly how I do it. I get it. I need this footprint, this, arboreal. I need this terrestrial, this whatever. And it's like, which one of
Exactly.
those is on sale?
Like
Yeah. Especially when you pop out 60 something of them, like, hey, man, we need some houses. We got to go.
the decor is the hard part because I got to buy like 100 pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the making it functional is the part where you can get nickel and dime to death. That's definitely the truth for herpetoculture.
And then I ordered 15 custom enclosures for them.
Cool. Very
So
cool.
yeah, with the indoor lights, and I had a good season of selling. I was like, you know what? Let me just buy all this and upgrade them. So most of
That's
the
the way to
males
do it,
would be,
man. I mean,
yeah,
kind of get your hobby to pay for itself. That's everybody's dream, right?
yeah. I'd be like, and people ask me, so is this your only job? I'm like, oh God, no, I can't afford this.
Right?
Do you know how
Yeah.
much these things eat?
Yeah. I get the same question. My wife and I do educational shows. I was just doing one today, and folks ask me the same thing. They're like, "Oh, that's cool. So you do like reptile birthday parties as a job?" And it's like, "No. Are you crazy?" Like, yeah. Yeah. People who are not in the hobby definitely underestimate how expensive bugs and food and just literally everything is.
I think last year I went through 30,000 bugs.
Wow.
With the peak when I had 30 babies, I was going through 1,000 a week.
Wow. Okay. So now is
Yeah,
that something where are you just doing crickets or what are
oh,
you doing?
I hate crickets. So crickets are a treat for the babies once a week, so they can get
Okay.
out and hunt. That's like kind of the enrichment for them as they're hunting.
Okay.
But mealworms, superworms, dubias, waxworms, hornworms, butterworms,
Oh wow.
and
So just
isopods.
all of the above. Okay. That's pretty cool. The that is much more diverse than I was expecting. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
isopods are a treat because that's an expensive meal.
for sure. Yes, absolutely. Um, I use dwarf white isopods in my morning geckos. They smash them. But yeah, it's especially with the way everybody is wanting to collect isopods and make fancy dart frog tanks and stuff. Yeah, that stuff gets pretty expensive pretty fast. Uh,
They
with having diverse feeders like that, is there anything not worked? Like, are there favorites or stuff that didn't really pan out when you're trying to
uh,
offer as a feeder?
black soldier fly larvae are hit and miss.
Really?
They'll sometimes take it, and then the adults completely ignore them. Don't bother with them,
Oh, wow.
and they mercilessly hunt isopods.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
I
go
I kind of get it
absolute
being
town
skinks,
on the
but
isopods.
yeah, I wonder. I mean, that makes perfect sense being skinks that isopods would be uh, a prey source, but I would bet that there probably are not. There's definitely not a lot of folks out there using them as a food source. That is for sure. The way they've exploded with collecting and all that fun stuff.
They
Um,
weren't supposed to be one, but hey, they don't listen to me.
right? That the dwarf whites with my morning geckos were the same way. That I made a little bioactive thing and was doing whatever, and I saw baby morning geckos down there just hammering all these isopods. I'm like, dude, I literally just bought those and put them in there. That's not what they're for. Nope, just wiped them out. Yeah, I get it.
I had an enclosure that got ants and had some mold in it, so I was doing the changing out the substrate, and I tossed in like maybe 100 isopods in there. I found three.
Yep.
Yeah, I found three isopods in there. I was like, oh god, guys, come on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you could get, I don't know, I don't know enough about isopods. I use them in some of my bioactive stuff, but I don't really keep up to speed on breeding them or anything like that. But if you could get a decently fast producing species, I mean, that makes perfect sense that, ground dwelling skinks would just hammer those things.
And I have some picky eaters right now, and all they will eat are isopods. I'm like,
Wow.
you fancy lizards.
Yeah, that's an expensive picky eater right there.
Yeah, dairy cows are, I think, the favorites of them.
Huh. That's kind of cool.
I remember I threw in like 100. And three of the adults immediately popped out and started going to town on them. I'm like, there goes like $30 in 10 seconds.
Hmm. See, that's surprising that even the adults are getting after them. I mean, the babies I would totally expect, but an adult's a pretty good sized lizard to just be slurping up isopods. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's terrible because of how much they cost, but it's an interesting behavior to see.
Yeah, babies go to town on anything and everything.
Nice.
I remember I was giving them food. I gave one group their food, about 40 bugs. I left to go take care of some other enclosures. I came back, there's like six left.
It's one of those things where, like, you know, knowing the cost of feeders and the time for gut loading and just all the stuff that goes into feeding these animals, like when you see that, it's kind of like, oh, there goes a bunch of money and time. But at the same time, it's like that that's awesome. Like, this species, when babies pop out, hammer food. There's no messing around, especially like a lot of my friends are snake nerds. And
Uh,
when you get into some of these snakes, like, oh, this is beautiful and this is cool. Like, how come more people don't keep them? And it's like, oh, because the babies suck. Like, they only eat weird stuff, or they don't want to eat, or they're really hard to get started, and so on and so forth. Like, having a species that just pops out and powers through food, like, that's a nice place to be in.
yeah, I have a rhythm with them when they hatch out. So usually they'll all hatch out within a day or two of each other.
Okay.
So let's just say the first day they all hatch out, I'll leave them. 'Cause I don't use like hatcherite or vermiculite or anything like that. I use the substrate that they were laid in, and I put sphagnum moss in there with them.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's like I figured if they were gonna hatch in the cage, I can use this stuff to hatch them in the incubator,
Sure.
and it's instant where they go in there that they immediately burrow.
Okay.
Uh, So I leave them all in there for like a day or two to being used to being alive. Then on day three, I'll put them in a tub with wet paper towel. I'll throw in like some itty bitty baby mealworms for them,
Okay.
and I'll leave them in the incubator for another day. And then after that, so at 4 days, I start handling them and I start tongue feeding them food.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, these
Now,
guys get hands
how has that gone with the
actually
tongue
really well.
feeding? Okay. That's awesome.
I have maybe only two or three babies of my own that won't tongue feed.
Wow. Dude, that's cool.
But yeah, it's funny because they see tongs and they know food.
Yeah, I get
And,
that.
and people tell me like, yeah, when I get the babies, when they see the tongs, they will follow the tongs around.
Oh yeah.
And then it's the funniest thing I see, but I wish I could record this, is they will open their mouths and let me put the food in their mouth and then close.
Okay, there you go. That's a little bit scary smart. Like if you're smart enough to start getting lazy, like I've learned that I don't have to do anything. This person will just place the food on my tongue. I mean, that's a fairly high level of intellect to put two and two together. That you it's for one thing safe enough, right? Because the uh, every baby's instinct is to just flee. That they would be aware enough to realize, nah, we're cool. I can sit here with my mouth open and the food will come to me and I'm safe. Like that's a pretty high level of awareness for a little lizard. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's just there's so much stuff I wish I could record that I see on a daily, but I don't. But I can't show people, and it's like, oh man, this stuff is golden.
Yeah, but that's part of the allure, right? Is, you know, having them and getting to experience that is, it's kind of your own that's your own thing. Like
Yeah, those
to
those are the
to
hidden gems.
yeah, if you want to experience that, then you have to keep the species. Like it's, I really enjoy the fact that, you can go on YouTube and you can go on different platforms and you can see all sorts of amazing experiences, especially when it comes to reptiles and things now, where people have the little wise cameras and stuff, and you can see in enclosures, and tons of zoos are doing that where you can just like watch a hippo or something. Um, but there is like that's a big part of herpeticulture, or I think it's supposed to be, is like you hang out in your living room or whatever, and there's this little picture of a jungle with a critter in it, and you get to see what this thing does in this fake jungle. Like that's the whole idea, is like to instead of watching David Attenborough in your living room, you're watching a lizard in your living room. Like that's the whole point. And I don't know. I don't want people to like lose out on that because I could just go on YouTube and watch the lizard do everything. It's not the same.
Some of these babies are hilarious. They won't eat the food right in front of them in their food bowl, but they'll wait for me to drop bugs in from on top of their enclosure. Like they will sit there and wait for me to drop them in, and they know I'm there because they're looking right at me.
Yep.
And then they all have this look of feed me because they'll just stick their heads out of their hide, so they'll have their head above the substrate. I'm like, oh, I guess you're hungry, and it never fails.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. I don't know. It's I'm so glad to hear that it is going as well as it is, that you had crazy success with getting babies and all the different things and morphs and all that stuff is super cool. But for the babies to show up and sorry, and then for you to follow your process and to have success with that, dude, that's awesome. The tongue feeding and seeing the interactions and behaviors that you're seeing, like I think that the more people are able to experience the things that you're describing, like I think that things like that are what help ensure that species like this don't disappear again. And being able to share that, and oh hey, this is what I experienced and it was super cool, and so now you could get one and you could experience it, and then on and keeping that, like that, I don't know, popularity, I guess I kind of hate that word, but like it it will lead to them, I think, being a more popular species is because of those cool experiences. Like i I think they're beautiful, and I think the morphs and colors and things that you have had success with are also just crazy looking. It's awesome. But it's a whole separate component that the lizards are also cool. Like, because tons of stuff is beautiful, but it's terrible to work with. The fact that you're producing beautiful stuff, even in the normal, quote unquote, normal type, I think are one of the more beautiful handheld size lizards you can get. And then to hear from you that the experience side of keeping them is so cool. I'm really excited for that. I think that's awesome.
Some of these guys are actually pretty big. I think I got one male who's like 17 inches.
Wow. Okay. Very
And,
cool. I didn't know
and
that.
with, yeah, he's all tail.
Nice. Cool.
And I bought him from he's one of the captive bred ones I have, him and his sister. And
Okay.
it's and the difference between a male and a female when they're young is so outstanding. Like
Really?
like I have him and he weighs like 150 grams and is like 17 inches. His sister barely hit 80 grams last week and she's like 13 inches.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
So
then
now is it just an overall size thing, or is there like is the broader head or different tail base, or are there any other visual cues that can help you with that, or is it just general size?
you need magic and a good guess. There's honestly nothing really, because I have males that look like females, females that look like males, and I have stuff that I don't know because they don't look like either.
Okay. Yeah. You're
The only real way to
you're on the
tell,
ground floor, man. Like you're the one puzzling it out for everybody else. I mean, I, that
yeah,
sucks. I'm sure it's very frustrating, but it's also pretty cool.
oh yeah, man, you can tell with siblings like clutch site within a clutch because the
Okay.
males take off really quick.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes
Like
sense.
because I'm trying to with the Axanthics, I have two males already above 30 grams, and compared to the siblings, they're just ginormous. They're like double the size of their siblings.
Wow. That's yeah, that's a significant difference, especially for younger animals. Should be so much bigger. That's pretty cool. And
But even
again,
with
I mean, with your record keeping, it's something that you're able to observe and quantify. That's pretty awesome.
I have two males. They're half siblings, same dad, different mom.
Okay.
The big one, his name is Duke. He's like 65 grams already. And his half brother, which is only like 15 days younger, is 40 grams.
Okay.
Then I have the melanistic males, which are 3 months younger than them, are already bigger.
Wow.
Yeah, but his parents, the melanistic parents, were smaller than his.
Hmm. That's weird. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
guess some of them just got that good gene for growth.
True. I don't know. I feel like those are things because you're still very early days, of course. You know, in producing and seeing how things progress. Um, I think those are the kinds of neat little details that as you progress through your keeping and how you're doing things, that's where you're going to start to see your patterns and oh, this lion or these parents or keeping records the way that you do is going to allow you to kind of see more of those details than someone who just keeps for the sake of keeping. That should be pretty cool. Like farther down the road, I think it could be really interesting. That's awesome.
And with patternless and reduced pattern, those genes don't kick in until later on.
Oh, okay.
So I have a reduced pattern clutch right now, and they're just starting to lose some pattern at 8 weeks, almost 8 weeks.
Oh,
So it's weird because you'll see it. You'll see the black. It's always the black part of the pattern that they lose. So the black will go turn to white dots. They'll fade out, and then the side colors will kick in where the white dots were.
okay. That's an
It'd be like if you shaved part of your beard off, and when
yeah.
it grew back a different color than what it was.
That is cool. Yeah, that is an interesting progression because I feel like most things, well, and a lot of those are snakes, but there's some of the lizards too. Like as you see that color change through maturity, there really isn't a loss and then a gain. It's usually a shift, right? Like you something like a green tree python, like you can actually see the scales have portions of green, or the green comes in spotting or what have you. You don't really get like less base color and then green. The green just takes over. That's cool that you're seeing that where the other colors are kicking in after the fact. That's neat.
Because one of my females, she's 100% het patternless. When I got her, she had full side patterns. But when she was getting older, I would notice that the black would fade into white after a shed, and then after the next shed, the white would turn into the red or orange on the sides.
That's cool to actually see the progression. That's pretty neat. Cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm trying to sit here and think of different species that go through color changes like that and then how they progress. That's a pretty unique thing. That's pretty cool. That's
And the
a
mel,
that's a neat observation.
I wish the melanistics kept all their black, but they lose it as they grow on.
Right.
And then, as you saw with the cobalts, they'll get a lot of red on their sides and belly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I thought that was neat, really neat. That's very different. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like I said, just seeing all of the different details and as things progress, the fact that you have such a good group and diverse morphs and genetics and things that are available to you, you're just able to observe and experience so many more things. That's really cool. Like, I don't know. I think that's fascinating.
I proved out 13 out of the 17 breeders my first year.
Dude, I don't know. I hope people hear this and get jealous. Like that's like your odds and statistics for, fertility and clutches and like you're just crushing it. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's so cool to hear.
everyone gets blown away with me saying I've only had one infernal.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. That is really impressive. Very
And,
cool.
it's always the expensive stuff that goes bad.
Yeah, that's just kind of that's the fates fighting back.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this year. I got a couple more projects going on.
Cool. So now what is the plan like with that? So you proved out quite a few of them. Now, do you want to just reproduce your already current results, or are you moving to the next step, or how is that playing out? Are you kind of
I
keeping your
have
pairings the same or no?
I I want to test out some hets this year with the 2 het patternlesses I have. I want to
Okay.
test those ones out. 'Cause, I have I want to test out some hets this year with the 2 het patternlesses I have. I want to test those ones out. 'Cause, I want to test those ones out. 'Cause, I want to test those ones out. 'Cause, I want to test those ones out. I have an adult male, which I think is Het, but I'm not 100% sure because he's a wild caught.
Okay.
And then I have the hypo. I want to see what that does.
Yeah,
And I
that
have
thing is super cool.
I have one more unique one, and I would like to see how he is. Because I raised him up from a baby, so this would be his first year too.
Okay. Cool. Nice.
This season, I will be trying for a new morph, and I am doing part 2 of a project I'm working on.
Okay. Very cool. I don't know. I think it's going to be cool, man. I'm very excited. The success you've had so far is really impressive, and so to see how things step forward from here is going to be really cool. I definitely look forward to seeing the results. And I don't know. It's just super cool. I was so glad, man. I put it in the Facebook thing, and I talked about it at the start of the episode, but you know, the folks in the network, we were all chatting together, and somebody brought you up and was like, "Oh yeah, Fire Skinks," and they are, man. They're a nostalgic species. Like, they're awesome. Everybody loves them, and they just weren't really around. And then they, you know, to hear all the positives from your work with them so far, it's awesome. I'm very excited for that. I hope they work toward becoming a hobby staple again. I think that would be fantastic for everybody.
I think the funniest question is I always get, "Oh, they have morphs? I didn't know that."
For sure. Yeah. For a long time I had no idea. Yeah. And it, you know, it they are super cool, the morphs, but it's also one of those lizards like, man, they're killer even in their regular for like I love even the normals. Like I think they're fantastic. And herpeticulture has gotten weird where, you know, I think a lot of newer folks, you know, downplay normal things because the morph portion of it is so huge, which is fun, and it is a fun part of herpeticulture. But like just some of those iconic species that in their, you know, wild type quote unquote normal phase, um, man, they're beautiful in their own right. I love it.
Yeah, normals will always be the backbone of
For
any
sure.
breeding group for fire skinks.
Very cool. I like it.
It's so underrated for a $45 lizard.
Yeah, right? For sure. Yeah. All right, man. Well, we are cruising past an hour. So I will wrap this up. Is there anything that we missed? Or I know you don't post a ton on social media, but if folks want to pick your brain about Fire Skinks, where could they find you? Or if they are interested in getting Fire Skinks as you produce more, where could they find you?
Uh, I I post a lot on Reddit.
Okay.
Uh, I think my Reddit name's like Valdez_75, and they can usually get a hold of me there, or there's Instagram.
Okay.
Usually, I like to have places where I can post pictures so people can actually see them.
Right. Very cool.
And
All
usually,
right.
if there's a following for Fire Skinks, usually my name's one of the first ones they throw out there.
Yeah. I mean, everything that I have seen so far is it all leads back to you. So I feel like anybody who uh is searching this interview out or happens across it, if you know any of the normal places where you find reptile information, if you're talking about fire skinks, Richard's name will come up and you'll definitely see his pictures for sure. Um, but yeah, so Reddit and Instagram are the places to look for you. Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on, man. I am so happy to hear about your success, and I really look forward to watching what you do from here.
I thank you for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So just hang out for a minute and I will close out.
Okay.
All right. So, Richard Valdez and Fire Skinks. That was awesome. I am so glad he came on to talk to us. Thank you to Casey for bringing Richard up to me and making me aware of all the cool things that he's doing. Um, like we said during the episode, it's an iconic species. It really is. A lot of us uh, are nostalgic for that type of animal, and they kind of faded out of herpetoculture. It was one of those things where it wasn't fancy or expensive, and so it sort of fell to the wayside. And then a bunch of us now are sitting around like, oh, I wish, boy, I wish. That's one of those species. Boy, I wish. And now we have somebody who had great success with it and is continuing to have great success with it. And it turns out that this beautiful species is also super cool as a baby, and he's tongue feeding and seeing neat behaviors, and he's having positive experiences. And so um it sounds like it could be the actual nostalgic thing we all think it could be. And that's a really exciting thing. I think that's awesome. And I hope he has continued success. And I hope I can get some and try to work with them and play with them and experience all the cool things he's experiencing. I really like that. I like that, you have somebody who, he even said it was kind of new to herpetoculture or new to being this into it. And then he had great success and is continuing it. It's exciting, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. And I've had bunches and bunches of things, but to hear of something that I haven't had before, but I remember from being a kid, and turns out it's awesome, and just opens up new things for me to be interested in and to be excited about, and that could be kind of a rarer feeling, I guess, the longer you're in. So I don't know. It's cool. I'm super excited about Fire Skinks again, even though I, you don't really lose it. It's just one of those things you think about, like, oh, when I was a kid, and then to hear all this cool stuff about them it's exciting. I look forward to it and to seeing what he does with it in the future. So, if you guys are on YouTube and see it live, or you see it on YouTube later on, you'll notice we have the new banners and stuff up. Black Box Cages is sponsoring the network, which is pretty cool. And I have been talking to Justin and the guys about how to go about using black box cages for some different lizard things. And I have some ideas that I've been tossing around, and I think we're all going to get a few things and put them together and try and show them to you guys. I haven't used their cages yet, but I hear great things from Justin and Jake. Of course, they are big proponents of it, and I look forward to trying to play with those and set them up for the different things that I have, and maybe do it in a little bit different way than the other guys. I know they have set up some really cool stuff for their snakes, but I don't think any of the guys in our group have set anything up for lizards yet. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I looked through their catalog, and there's a lot of really cool stuff. And I've seen bunches of people post pictures, and they've made a lot of neat things. I saw Mike Stefani was in the chat at the start, so I'm probably going to get some of those black box cages and throw a bunch of zoopoxy in them and see what I can make. So I'll be hitting up Mike for some zoopoxy, so that'll be cool. Yeah, I had that break due to work, and this is our first episode back. I have plenty of episodes still scheduled and planned out through March into April, and so we will continue with our regular schedule. Thanks for hanging out while I had that break, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Later.